All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to Coffee Time Podcast, episode number. You don't know, Justin?
Bro, why you gotta do that shit to me?
How do you not know?
57. We're on
Episode
57.
57, 57. I'm captions, and I think if I point this way, yes, it's the co-host over there, Justin Avalos.
Wait,
Oh, you have the soundboard. I forgot.
yeah, I got the soundboard, homie. I'm prepared.
Oh yeah, well, I'm trying to be prepared. Okay, so brief intro to what we're going to be talking about today is Joe Biden's comments if it's vax or mask, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So we're going to talk about that, discuss it into somewhat of great detail, and just give the coffee time unsolicited opinion on it. So I think I will allow Justin to start here. Justin, are you vaccinated?
I identify as vaccinated, therefore, it's so funny because right now at our base, our commanding officer sent out a notice stating that for those people that are fully vaccinated, they're allowed to, not be masked and anything like that. They're allowed to go to pretty much anything without having to wear a mask. However, they're not allowed to ask you if you're vaccinated or not because that's actually illegal. If people do ask you if you're vaccinated or not, like businesses, things like that, they could actually get into a lot of trouble for that because
Really?
it goes against OSHA, HIPAA, as well as it goes against your constitutional right to not self-incriminate. So, right to remain silent and all the other shit. So yeah, they're not legally allowed to ask you for that shit.
Well, since you are not vaccinated, I will feel.
Bro, what's so sad is people do that shit. Like whenever they're in Zoom meeting, like there was this there was this interview, or not an interview, but it was Joe Biden with a bunch of constituents, and he was wearing a mask while on a fucking Zoom. Like, I don't think that's how germs spread.
Well, Drims, you're very antsy about this subject. So since you are not vaccinated, I think this is appropriate for me to wear my mask during this Zoom conference. Because, with new data coming out daily, CDC making reports and Twitter's tweets daily, we don't know if we can get this thing through virtual content anymore. Like,
Yeah, I think 6 feet was rule. Now it's how many states away that you gotta
uh,
maintain?
just stay away from California, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. In all seriousness, right? I didn't know that it was. Yeah, I could imagine that it would be some legal infringements and guidelines being bent if someone would be like, "Are you vaccinated? If you're not, you can't come into my establishment." That's why it's mask or no service. That kind of
Yeah.
protects you through all of that. Um, let's just talk about the mask thing in general of like why do you feel that people are so strongly about it? Even with the new evidence coming out that in the state of Florida's that have in Texas and Tennessee, some parts of Tennessee that they've loosened their their stance on wearing a mask in public, wearing a mask while transiting outside, and their cases steady in a declining measure continue to decline.
Mhm.
So what do you think? Why do you feel people are so adamant on being like, put your mask on or where's your mask?
Well, really, it comes back to whenever we first came with this virus. A lot of misinformation was spread to the point where like it just became true to these people. Like even though you can, throw like the scientific evidence of like the ineffectiveness of most masks that people wear, like they did a study, about the different masks that people wear and how effective they are in actually stopping the spread. I think the lowest form where they were saying, pretty much you shouldn't even be wearing this. It's just the same as a net gaiter, which is very popular. A lot of people like to wear net gaiters, but it showed in like a spit test or something like that it's exactly the same as not wearing that at all. And then it went up to different levels. Of course, the cloth mask, the regular disposable mask that you see. and they always said like the most effective one was the N95. That was like one of the most effective ones to have
Oh,
on in order to,
I think I had
stop
one of
the
those.
droplets and everything like that. But
Yeah.
honestly, I think it's mostly theater. I think it just gives people a false sense of security. Um, and there's a lot of things in place that do that. Like they're not 100% effective, and they've even said like this isn't to protect you; it's to really protect others.
Yeah.
So even whenever they're giving all that stuff, and even though like you're saying, you're fully vaccinated, so if you really believe this vaccine works, then what's the worry of me not wearing a mask? If I have it, I can't give it to you. So it's that false sense of security. I think it's just like a little security blanket for them to where like oh well, this is tricking my brain into thinking I'm safer than I really am. Just like with cars, how they're like so automated and everything, and it does it all for you. It's really a false sense because once those things fail, you got to still rely on your own instincts, your natural abilities to be able to control that car in the long run.
And what you're
You know what I
saying is
mean?
you need to rely on your immune system and
Yeah,
everything like that. Okay.
because that's what the immune system is for. Because let's say it like this: if you're in an incubated area where there's no germs, it's completely sterile, and you're in there for like 18. Oh wow, we've been doing technical issues this entire time, so it cut off. But if you've been living in this plastic bubble for 18 years and then you step outside, your immune system's not going to know what to do, and you're going to most likely die
Well,
because
Jesus Christ, that's a that
but
is a
what
wow. Okay.
yeah, that's the extreme factor. But if you're not getting your body used to these things, you're not exposing yourself to these things, your body is never going to be able to combat it. So I think that's the thing that people aren't realizing. Like, yeah, you could wear the mask, yes, you could wear the vaccines, but at the end of the day, you have to still rely on your immune system to help combat really anything that you come in contact with.
Yeah,
And I
but
don't know.
like vaccines is just introducing it to your immune system so it could adapt. It's just a low dosage, right? So,
But here's the
um,
thing. Here's the misconception that people are still not understanding. When they say that this is a vaccine, this is actually not a vaccine. This is actually a gene therapy. There's a difference. So one of the main factors about the difference between a gene therapy and a vaccine is a gene therapy is set to attack your DNA. It's meant to replace certain genes in order to combat immunity. So it is different. It's more experimental as well. This is the first time that we've had a gene therapy that's been distributed by the masses. And you can look this up on the CDC, FDA, all that stuff. It will say like this is technically a gene therapy and not a vaccine. So when people kind of blur the lines between the two, it's like, okay, so what's the truth? You know what I mean?
well, I
Because
feel like, I'm not even gonna speak on that because
Mhm.
I know nothing about gene therapy, very little about vaccines. I was just here to talk about the approach of how of masks and the
Yeah.
situation of the country split here, where some people feel like masks are appropriate and some people are just like, hey, whatever. My stance, and I feel like this is your stance as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you don't wear a mask, if you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Right?
Yeah, I think it should be up to the individual to make that their choice to risk their health or do the pros and cons of wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. It should be up to the individual and not
Uh,
by outside external forces.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we agreed. That was today's episode of Coffee Time Podcast. No, no, no. But dude, let me just. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, and I'm gonna circle back to this mask thing, right? So we're gonna talk about to like the beginning of us putting boots on the ground, crawling out of our caves, Big Bang, God snapping his finger and making us. Whatever you believe in is okay. But in the beginning, we had one simple rule, one rule that like conjoined us together. You know what that rule is?
Survival.
Survival, right? Just like it wasn't like, hey, Justin, your clan's closer to the water than my clan. If you don't give me a little land there, we're gonna fight. That's what caused those problems. But we had one main thing that we can all agree on was just survive.
Mhm.
And then we had all these medical accomplishments and just technological advancements, and we solved the life expectancy of being, how many, dude, back then, fuck, dude, one,
You were
wait,
lucky to live at 30.
yeah, 30 was like the life expectancy. Now it's 70, high
Yeah,
80s.
75 is like the average.
Yeah, 75, but like high 80s, 90s is getting there too. So
Mhm.
we have to look on something else. We solved the survival crisis. Now what's going to happen? We lived in a world of comfort for so long because we were comfortable with not being, or not worried about how are we going to survive. And I'm not saying we as everyone, because I can fully understand that there's people on the streets every day
Mhm.
playing this game of life trying to learn how to survive. But as a whole, as a race, we were like factory farming, sustainable energy, and clean water, filtration systems for water,
Mhm.
shelter. If I break my arm, I don't have to get it amputated and get an infection and die. We solved all these major problems,
Uh-huh.
and we were so comfortable for so long. And then, bam, bro, COVID-19 happened. And it was presented to us to be like the Spanish flu, bubonic plague. I remember watching videos on Twitter of people in China, Wuhan, walking around and just dropping, bro, like flies.
Mhm.
Shit hits the fan. We all think we're gonna die. We're basically even Florida, even Texas, even Tennessee, even South Carolina, all the southern states, they back down. They're like, we have to lock down. We have to beat this thing for 2 weeks. That turned into about 18 months. But and everyone's
We
finally
still
tired of,
there.
huh?
I'm like, we still there.
Yeah, we're still there, but we're getting there. But
Yep.
what I'm saying is that key thing of survival happened, right? And we're just searching for someone to tell us how to survive. So when Fauci, CDC, and Fauci has misspoke and has reprimanded some of his actions of this, but the CDC is just saying like everyone has to wear masks, everyone has to do social distancing. Dude, there's some what is it, some woo or some like primal in our DNA that's like, this is survival. So you're telling me if I wear a mask and he wears a mask, we're gonna survive this shit. And when people are presented with a situation where their comfortability is challenged, because let's just say you're in the same room as me right now, and I was a big mask wearing, like I wear a mask anyway, but if I was like, I believe that it was going to rate my survival to be above average, between COVID at its peak, and you're not wearing a mask, I would lash out because you're endangering me, you're making me uncomfortable. Because I've been led to believe what the media is saying, that mask saves lives, which some recent science called the great country of Florida, I would not call that a state, um, has shown us that um, it's really not that big of a deal to wear a mask.
Yeah.
It, re- it just allows you to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And I need the listeners and the viewers to really listen to me here. If it's making you feel uncomfortable, you need to either remove yourself and not lash out, because we need to get to a part where we're just saying, if I want to wear a mask, I wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, you don't wear a mask. The science is out there, the studies are there. We have states such as Florida and Texas that is showing us day by day that the social distancing rules and this mask rule, and like my co-host said in the beginning of this podcast, of it's just the material that the media is giving you to make you feel comfortable, which is fine. But don't lash out. That's my whole message here. If someone's not being a mask wearer, and if you come to me and you're wearing a mask, I'll talk to you like a normal person.
Yeah, because I've always been okay
Sorry, I
with
got to mask up since we got someone
it's so stupid.
that's not
No,
vaccinated.
like if businesses want to be like, hey, you're gonna have to wear a mask and they actually enforce it, then by all means. But I see these businesses that are like, hey, masks are required. And I'm still seeing people like not wearing them. Like, why do y'all have this sign if you're giving them the option? Like, if people are really that uncomfortable being around people that aren't masked and you're that scared of COVID, then remove yourself from the situation, because the people that aren't wearing the mask, that are, taking that chance, that's their right to do so. They have the right to judge for themselves if this is safe to do or not. Now, if you are really that scared, then remove yourself from that situation. There's plenty of options out there. There's curbside delivery, there's, delivery to your home for groceries or whatever. But if you're wanting to go back into the normal world, you have to realize that other people have already been back in the normal world. They've been exposed. Like for me versus, let's say, like me and you've been out of the military for almost 2 years now, I want to say, right?
A year was February 2nd of this year.
Okay.
So what is this, March, April, May? So 15 months?
Okay. So let's just say whenever everything was shut down, there was a lot of people that didn't have to go to work. They weren't essential workers or anything like that. So they had the luxury of staying home, staying distant, all that stuff. Well, a lot of people still had to go back out there, even though it was deemed unsafe. So, like military personnel like myself, grocery workers, food delivery trucks, all those people, they had to pretend like it was normal, even though we were going through all this shit. Like, I remember going to work and there was like no one on the road, no one in stores, no one doing anything. And it was such a weird thing. But the thing is, we never got the chance to, you know, live that lifestyle of, we're going to isolate, we're going to do this. Like, it's like, no, we have to work. We have to be able to do these things because we are being forced to. We have to show up to work. We can't just say, oh, I'm fearful of COVID, this and that. But I think the reason why the whole mask thing is such a huge deal is because when it was first presented to us, it was so heightened. We didn't know all the facts, and there was a lot of misinformation out there about the vaccine. And we're still learning about a lot of the misinformation. Like, whenever we're looking at the death toll, I want to say back whenever Biden first came in, he said something along the lines of 500,000 people have died since the start of COVID. But we remember learning whenever Trump was in there saying, hey, these numbers are actually not correct, because we're seeing hospitals counting like car accident deaths. And if they have COVID in their system, we're calling it a COVID related thing. So of the 100%, that's COVID, only I believe maybe less than 2% were actually, of the deaths were actually caused by COVID alone. And even then, you still have the factors of, pre-existing conditions, age, immunity, all that stuff. So, but in the beginning, it was holy crap, like people are dying left and right, left and right. And we're seeing footage from like France where, hospitals are at capacity. And, they're telling that story like, hey, here in the States, everything's at capacity. There's no room, yada, yada. And I remember seeing videos and all these people talking like, dude, we have plenty of room. Like, our ICUs aren't even packed to its maximum thing. And these are places like in New York where they had set up these temporary camps and all that stuff, and they had to get rid of it because no one was going to them because they had enough of the equipment. Because I understand there was a shortage of equipment at first. Like, bro, take off that mask. It's really distracting me.
I feel safe. And I
But
feel
look,
like you're just rambling. What's your point? Get to it.
okay, so the point is, with the mask and everything like that, everything was very high in the beginning, and they never went back and it was like, hey, maybe we overreacted. Let's dial it back a bit. Well, instead, it's just been like on full speed this entire time. And now that all this information is coming out, now that people are realizing, like, does this actually really work, and starting to question it, that's where you're seeing like the resistance of like, why do I need to wear this if, one, I'm fully vaccinated, two, places like Texas, Florida, and even Tennessee are showing us like, hey, these masks aren't doing anything and the cases are actually dropping. and opening back up isn't that big of a deal anymore.
Hmm.
So, and I think like people, I think the only reason why a lot of people are wearing masks, and I talked to you about this the other day, but a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to come off as someone that doesn't care. So you're concerned about what other people perceive you as. And I don't want people thinking I'm affiliated with a certain party that's known for not wearing masks. So it's really just becoming, oh, I just want to make other people comfortable, as well as I don't want people to assume I'm this party.
Hey, well, there's nothing wrong with making other people comfortable if it doesn't make you uncomfortable. To wrap this all up, it sounds like your whole speech there was basically saying that people need to be held accountable and they need to come out and just be like, hey, look, I was wrong. And I'm sorry that I made a mistake in this public event of telling you some misinformation, but the data now shows the numbers, and if you appreciate science now, that we're okay to wear masks and we're okay to not wear masks. And
Mhm.
that's it.
Yeah. All that 20 minutes of me rambling ties down into that.
It's
I
okay,
get
but
heated, guys. I'm sorry. Damn.
it's okay, but leave it to you to always sprinkle a little Trump magic in there.
I'll shut the hell up. You know, I mean, it's just, I think that's the other funny part too is, people are talking about, the vaccine, and we have to give credit where credit is really due. Like they still haven't done it to where they're like, like the last administration was the one that spearheaded this entire thing with Operation Warp Speed.
All right, guys, we're gonna end this right now before
You
you
a
go on
hoe.
a tangent. Thank you for choosing to listen to Coffee Time Podcast again. Anyway, I am Captions. That's Justin on that side of the screen.
And I'm fully vaccinated.
There's a reason why I wear a mask the majority of the time for this Zoom interview. But bye, guys.